Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we are doing my top 10 indie fantasy that I want to read next year. This list had to be narrowed down. It was really hard to get it down to 10 because there are a lot of indie books I want to read next year, but I had to give it a concrete number for the video and for the clickbaity title. So I just need to say that there are a lot of books that didn't make it onto this list. That being said, I removed sequels from this list. We all know I want to read A Shade of Madness, and we all know I want to read Age Will Sin, which is the second Illborn book. I didn't put them on this list because they're sequels, so essentially this would be starts of series that I want to read. I could have just clickbaited it that, like, series I want to start, but that's besides the point. And then the other thing I tried to do was remove books that had already been previously talked about on my channel of me saying, I really want to read this soon. Now, one did sneak by just because my excitement for that is so insane that I want to read it really badly, and I know it's a series I'll be really prioritizing next year. But other than that, nothing did, which leaves me with two honorable mentions, because these books have been talked about on my channel previously. I think everyone will probably know that I want to read them. I'm going to show them to you, but they just aren't getting a synopsis, where every other book in this video will get a synopsis, but these two, which are honorable mentions, won't. Coffee first, though, because we like coffee over here. I tried the caramel cookie Nespresso pod, and it's got eggnog in it, and it's really good. It's lighter than my usual coffee. I normally go for like a latte and get like a really strong espresso, but this is a light coffee, and it's just kind of like a dessert, and it's delicious. My two honorable mentions are Shadowless by Randall McNally. This has been on my list for a really long time. I really need to get to it. The author kindly sent this to me. It is a review copy, so I really do need to get to it. Hopefully early next year, but it just didn't make it onto this list because I've already talked about it before, a lot before. I really need to read this. And the other one is an incarnation of Shadow and Light. I'm super excited to read this. I read the first chapter in my predicting star ratings of indie books based off their first chapter. I predicted a 4-star for this. It kind of reminds me of City of Dusk and what I wanted from City of Dusk, but I'm hoping this will do it way, way, way better. And I just need to read this one, so these are my two honorable mentions that didn't make it onto the list because I made it a top 10, but they literally would have been 11 and 12. Not to mention every other indie book I own, I'm excited to get to and want to get to, but these are some priorities for me. I actually think I can rank these from the literally the most interested to the still interested. Like, it would be least to most, but like, if they're on this list, they're most interested, which is I think why most people don't rank them. But I think it's interesting to see how my excitement grows for them. So I'm going to start at the bottom, the ones that like aren't as like I must get to. They're still I must get to, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm starting from 10th place. I'll go all the way up to first place. Let's just make it simple, okay? So in 10th place, we have Cold from the North by D.W. Ross. I actually really want to read this one, but I think it's so low on this list because I have not had the best time with popular indie books. I seem to dislike all popular indie books and like the ones that I haven't heard anything from. So that's what literally scares me about this one. On top of that, I've seen reviews for it that say it's a bit more of a low fantasy system, and I'm typically a hard fantasy kind of gal, but I have been convinced lately that I need to remember that when things are done good, they can work for me. Just because I typically don't like them doesn't mean I won't like them in this book. And so, even though it has low fantasy, there are other buzzwords that I'm really excited for. It's got a cold winter setting, it's epic fantasy, it's Norse mythology. There's a lot of things I'm super excited for. This follows a world where there is a prophecy that is kind of bringing back the dark gods, and so there is a war happening, and our main character is in a village that is slaughtered by these people bringing back the dark gods, and driven by the need for safety, he goes on a quest to find the one person who can maybe stop everything from happening. That was a really bad synopsis, but that's what I think it entails. It says, doing so will send him across lands and seas, have him and his closest friends navigate the intricacies of civil war, and try to win the help of a princess fighting for her throne. If he fails, darkness will prevail, and the reign of Onyx Born will begin. I'm excited. That's all I gotta say. It's one that's been up on my list for a while, but I've had just like slight hindrances because I have seen things that are like not my typical love and fantasy, but I'm excited to hopefully love this one. The next on this list is The Beast Hunters by Christopher Lend, I think is his name. This I'm excited for because it's different than anything else on this list, I believe. In this one, we're following a girl who starts being trained to be a beast hunter. Now, I believe that this starts out a little bit Monster of the Week-ish, where we're just going and we're hunting the beasts of this world. But in the end, it turns into a bigger plot scale. That's what I've seen in reviews. I think this one's going to be really exciting. I've seen that there's talk about the back having like the beasts all described, and I think that's cool to have like such intricate world that you can tell me all the body parts and what the diet is and things. I think that's what's in the back. I don't own this book yet, but I'm excited to. And I think it will be a lot of fun just to see our main character grow up. I've heard she has a really good story arc. I think she's really young when she starts, and I've heard that 3 characters in this are really well done, really well fleshed out. The idea of the beast hunting kind of gives me like Supernatural season 1 vibe, and I'm excited to try that. Like, that just sounds exciting. It sounds different than most of this on this list. It sounds less epic fantasy, but still like very cool. I've heard the monsters in it are really cool, and I'm just excited for this one. I'm really excited for this one. I actually found it on Twitter through the author doing a giveaway. I didn't win the giveaway, but I'm very excited. In 8th place, we have The Blood of the Spear by Mark Timoney. Again, another one I'm excited for but scared of because it's a little bit more popular in the indie sphere. This one is very much traditional fantasy, which is also scary because you win some, you lose some with me. It needs to be traditional fantasy that has enough unique elements that I'm still intrigued about it. So I'm scared, but I'm also really excited to try this because I have been known to really enjoy some traditional fantasies. Think the Faithful and the Fallen series. I adore it. I have learned that lately I've really enjoyed the idea of like monsters in my fantasy. I think it kind of adds a bit of a horror element. So when there's like rifts and like monsters coming from different worlds and like portals and like just like hunting down of these gruesome creatures, I've really enjoyed it. I think this one will do some of that. Again, we follow 2 brothers, and I like a sibling relationship in books. I definitely like when there's 2 siblings that are separated. I don't know if that's the case in this one. Normally it's done with a brother and a sister, I find, on like opposite sides of an empire, but this one is 2 brothers, which I think is really interesting, really intriguing. I've really known that I've loved family dynamics in shows, and it makes sense that it would then relate and you would see it in books as well. So like, I'm excited because I think I'm starting to grow a love for seeing those family connections, those sibling connections specifically. I have a harder time with like parents because I can't really connect with the love of a kid and like the relationship and the journey you go on with a kid. But as someone who has an older sibling, I've always been able to relate to that sibling bond. And so I think reading more sibling books has really been on my radar, and I'm excited for this one because of that. I'm going to read the synopsis because I can't really sum this up for you. I'm sorry, I tried not to be that person, but I do think indies do a good job with their summaries compared to traditional publishing, so I don't mind reading them out as much, but I do try not to be that person because I get really bored when the entire video is just a reading of synopsis. I want to know a little bit more, but I did talk about some of those buzzwords for me, so I feel like it's fair. We follow 2 brothers, 1 prophecy. A world on the brink of destruction. Cale Taranth is overflowing with regret. Absent during his mother's final days, he's determined to pass the trials and join the elite Daemon Hunters, hoping to build a safer future for himself and his brother Darian. For centuries, the Summoners led humanity to heights undreamt by the star-faring forefathers, but in their pursuit of power and immortality, 10 Summoners opened a gateway to the void and fell prey to demonic possession. The war that followed destroyed the civilization the Summoners had built, and the Sundering changed the face of the world forever. 3,000 years later, the broken continent of Athme still bears the scars of the War of the Summoners. When an unexpected battle with a demon reveals Cale and Darian's connection to a forbidden summoner bloodline, they find themselves on the run from friend and foe alike, for at the end of the war, seers foretold that the summoners and the demon hordes would return, and the Amprios, the most powerful of all summoners, would be born. If prophecy holds true, the brothers may hold the fate of the world in their hand. The Blood of the Spear is a fast-paced first book in the Eye of Eternity epic fantasy series, and if you like flawed heroes, edge-of-your-seat action, and intricate world-building, then you'll love Mark Timoney's character-driven adventure. I'm excited. So much of that sounds good. I like the brothers. I like the prophecy. I like the idea that they're like what is to come in the magic. I'm excited for this one. Okay, I am excited. Let's move on to the next one. The next book is The Eye of Everfall. This is by Barb Constantine and Lewis Knight. I'm excited for this one because the first sentence in the synopsis says, in a world where history has become myth, legend returns in sinister fashion. And I like that idea of history being buried by other things. I think I always love that conversation of history is written by the victors and that some things get lost. And I think that that's really cool. And to see like the lostness of the history come back as like myths and legend is really cool. And then seeing it come back to like actual life is also really cool. So I'm excited for this because of that kind of concept. I really don't know much about this one. I do know we have a seer, and that's something I can struggle with, and I've noticed it to be a big character archetype in indie fantasy specifically, because I think it's because most indie fantasies, at least that I'm learning about, lean towards that traditional fantasy type style, and seers are really big in those things. It is a thing I don't enjoy that much in my books because I find that it often leads to like lazy writing, but like it often visions become a plot convenience for me, but I have enjoyed it before and I think that it can be done really well. So I'm always looking to be proved wrong with this plot device that I don't like. So I'm a little nervous just because of that, but everything else about this book sounds really interesting, which is why it's on this list. Like, I'm super excited for it. We have a malevolent race of powerful beings that reveal their existence to humanity that changes everything. An immortal lord risks everything to cure his people of a terrible curse, yet the cost may be his very soul. A newly annotated seeress discovers an artifact that may hold the key to an ages-old conflict, but her discovery may be her destruction. And an fallen knight pursues a path of vengeance despite repercussions that threaten to consume all that he has suffered. Their lives will intersect with others, men who shift their shape with a thought, an ambitious and brutal warlord fixated on conquest, a cunning agent with duplicitous loyalties, a crimson-eyed mistress whose name means death, and a band of skilled fighters who dare to haunt the immortal. The resulting maneuvers for position and power will sweep the entire kingdom into a war where no outcome is predictable, but even the best intentions can go horribly awry. The shadow battles have begun. I think that this is going to be political. I think that from the synopsis, it could either go 3 POVs with those 3 main POVs, which is something I enjoy. I learned that in my 5-star audit. Or it could be multi-POV'd, which I also enjoy. So I'm excited for either, but I'm secretly hoping for 3 POVs. I think that would be really fun and entertaining. But I don't know, I'm just excited about this one. I feel like I've heard no one talk about it, but I'm excited to give it a try next year. And in 6th place on this list is 11th Cycle, which is by Kian and Ardalan. I'm so sorry that I'm butchering everybody's names in this. This is a grim dark, and so I'm excited for it because I say I like grimdark, and then I really struggle with grimdark, so I keep waiting for grimdarks to just get me there and be in love with them again. I mean, I really enjoyed Prince of Thorns, and I think that's the peak of my grimdark right now that I've liked a lot, but I like the concepts and the ideas. I like that we're not fading away from gruesome and brutality in grimdark. So in theory, I love it. So I just keep trying to read it to find ones that I absolutely adore. This one I am a little confused by the synopsis, but yet very intrigued. It says 1,000 years have gone since the last seed stopped doing his job, but a new seed has been born. Nowhere in the synopsis does it explain what a seed does or what their job is, which is just super intriguing. Like, I'm like, ooh, what's a seed? What do they do? What are their magical abilities? Like, what? I'm just intrigued just about that. Like, I want to know more about the seed. Then it says, the mists are closing in. Finally, the morning bell tolls. A new seed is born, but is it too late? The rot eats away at mortals. The witnesses pray that they may not turn into one of the forgotten. And the constricting mists infect the land with fear. But there is more to this tale than just the elders and their seeds. Like, what? Like, I don't know why, but that just leaves me so intrigued. I'm, like, very confused but intrigued by that. There's way more to the synopsis than just that, but that's like the first couple lines, and I'm flabbergasted by how interested I am. The next just starts to talk about how the mortals will play their fate, a farmer girl with only love in her eyes, a warrior born to the life of a refugee, a highborn stuck between the realm of gods and men, and a woman running into front lines and away from home. Will the cycle finally be completed, or will the mist swallow all? A seed is born, and the evil is slain, so doth another cycle commence. Yet the last seed born hath turned traitor, and the mists which have been pushed back returneth. Like, I'm left wanting more. There's a content warning at the end of the synopsis too, so it is like very grimdark. I know that it says like, yeah, it's grimdark. It's not. Read the content warning in the end of the synopsis if you're interested. And then the next one on this list is No Heart for a Thief, which is by James Lloyd Dillon. This is not out yet. It actually comes out next year, so it is an anticipated release. There's something about this book I really like. I really love this cover. It's really pretty. I think Dom has currently read it, or he's about to read it. I heard about it on Dom's channel and then was tweeted about it from the author, actually. And I'm very excited to attempt it. It sounds really good. We are the stories we tell ourselves, even the lies. Like, that's the first line of the synopsis. I'm intrigued. We follow two protagonists, I believe. One that is wielding the magic of the spirits that have since the spirits have not done what they're supposed to with their magic. I'm trying to think of the word I'm trying to think of. I don't know what it is, so we're just going with that. And now he's trying to hide his magic from the rest of the people and his world, but he could save them with his magic, but it could also be a curse. It's very confusing. And then there's an empire that's also coming in to take over. And then we also have another character, our second protagonist, I believe, who is on a quest for vengeance, and our first character trains that character in magic. That was a really, really bad synopsis. Maybe I should just read the synopsis to you. We are the stories we tell ourselves, even the lies. The thief, a great spirit, and her descendants have abused their ability to steal magic for centuries. When Kalo starts to hear the song of other people's magic, he must learn to hide from his people as well as the invaders. A gift or a curse, Kalo may be able to save his people from the Gosht Empire that claimed their land with his stolen magic. 18 years later, Kalo still prays the spirits, but not out of loyalty or love. He knows better than to rely on those selfish bastards for anything. While hiding in the forest from his foolish acts of rebellion, he encounters a girl, Tayin, being pursued by two soldiers of the Empire. Against his better judgment, he risks facing the consequences of his past to intervene. When Tayin attempts to run off seeking vengeance for her family, he offers to train her to wield her magic and a blade. If he can't convince her to relinquish her need for vengeance and stave off the demons in his past, he's gonna get them both killed. I'm really glad I read that synopsis because I think I brutalized the first part, that everything I said was not completely true. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I think that it is going to be a little bit non-Western, which I'm intrigued about for sure. Now, the next one on this list is going to make Rachel a very happy person or very scared. There's no in between. The next one on this list is Unsouled by Will White. So this is Cradle #1. Cradle is one of the biggest indie series that I know. It is also the biggest progression fantasy series that I know. After reading The Umbral Storm, I enjoyed the progression fantasy part of it, and I decided I wanted to try more. But I didn't really know where to go, so I figured, why not go with the staple in progression fantasy? Why not try Cradle? Rachel's been trying to get me to try Cradle for a really long time, but I'm terrified of it, so yeah. We're finally gonna do that. We're gonna try Cradle, which is progression fantasy. It means that you level up. If you don't know what progression fantasy is, a character levels up as they go, so essentially book 5 character is 5 times stronger than book 1 character and would be way more powerful. So if they were to 1v1 themselves, book 5 would easily win to book 1 because just powers, if that makes sense. Although I like when progression fantasy does play with the idea that even though you're more powerful, that doesn't mean you're smarter. And I think that there are ways to win. It's not always the most powerful that win. So I do like that concept when played with. So I'm hoping maybe it'll be played with in Cradle as well. But unsure. I really have no idea what to think about this one. I know Aaron had ups and downs. Aaron from Booked and Busy had ups and downs when reading Cradle. I'm hoping my overall experience is it becomes a new favorite series for me and that I keep wanting to read it and enjoy it. I know literally nothing about Cradle. I put it on this list, and I don't know what the synopsis is at all, though. So maybe I should look that up. Oh, it's short. It says, sacred artists follow 1,000 paths to power, using their souls to control the forces of the natural world. Lyndon is unsouled, forbidden to learn the sacred arts of his clan. When faced with a looming fate he cannot ignore, he must defy his family rules and forge his own path. That told me nothing. So I literally still know nothing about Cradle. But it's on this list. It's number 4. I'm excited to get to it. I'm nervous for this one, but I'm super excited. And number 3 on this list is Deathless Beast by Andrew D. Meredith. Andrew just had his other book, Thrice, which is not my type of style. It's a lot more cozy, I believe, as a SPFBO semi-finalist in SPFBO 8. But this one really caught my eye as something that I actually would really enjoy. He kindly actually sent me the second book through Kindle. So I now own both of them and I'm really excited to dive into it. There's something interesting about the way this is done because I believe on Goodreads it says that it was originally published as books 1s to 3s in a bind up, but now it's book 1 and book 2. I don't know if he ended up just continuing or something, but I'm really intrigued by this one and I think the covers are really fascinating. They have me really excited for them. There is talk about a pantheon in this, which was something I really enjoyed in the Puppy War trilogy. I liked the Pantheon magic and how that was done. I know there's talks about a holy order, which is something I also love in fantasy. I love any kind of religion talk. I love discussions on the good and the bad about religion, and specifically like religion in these older times. And it's time for the synopsis. This video has been a lot of synopsis reading. I'm so sorry. Fates intertwine, Pantheon calls, darkness grows, far too many blame their own bad luck on Hannon and Relia Clue. When opportunity knocks, they leap to put their past behind them. In the turmoil of holy order, fraught with lies, frustration, and hearsay, the paladin, Jind Brastian, is called to deeper faith. When Katiam takes up seemingly aegis seed pod from a botanist's desk, she cannot imagine the change it will bring. Life stirs within that seed. The path to deeper faith beckons. Profits are made upon the road, darkness moves. A winged, deathless wrath, invisible to the gods. For those who seek the hero's path, fate takes more than bargained for. Hubris breeds deathless wrath. They always hunger after more. Sounds good. Also, the prose in that was really pretty. It was like a poem. Number 2 on this list is The Crimson Queen by Alec Hudson. Spoiler for the SPFBO vlog. It's not a spoiler because on the website, which is linked down in my description bar, you can actually see my ranking already. You can see every time I read a book, I do update that scoreboard on the website. So if you're paying attention to the website, you'll see my scores a little bit earlier than you will in the vlog. But the vlog obviously has all my in-depth thoughts and reviews on it. But I really enjoyed The Umbral Storm. I had a great time reading The Umbral Storm. This one, The Umbral Storm, I had a really good time. So I decided I had to read his other work. And in doing my research, I actually found out that The Crimson Queen was a runner-up in SPFBO one year, I think a couple years ago now, and that has me even more excited because obviously it did really well in the competition. I'm really excited for this. I know nothing about the series other than the fact that it's written by Alec Hudson, and I enjoyed The Umbral Storm and the world building, and I just wanted to see what else comes out of Alec Hudson's brain. Epic fantasy again. I also think he has another series that is more like sword and sorcery. So if I like this one, I will also continue with the sword and sorcery one. I'm hoping that this will do what the Umbral Storm did as well, and I found the Umbral Storm to be a little bit more genre bending. I had horror elements that I really liked. It was also progression fantasy. I'm going to read you the synopsis for this because again, I have no idea. I didn't research it at all. I just said, I want to read it now, and I'm excited to read it. Long ago, the world fell into twilight, when the great empires of old consumed each other in sorcerous cataclysms. In the south, the star towers fell, swallowed by the sea, while the black glaciers descended upon the northern holdfast, entombing the cities of Min Kurith in ice and sorcery. Then from the ancient empire of Meneker, the paladins of Amma came, putting every surviving sorcerer to the sword, and cleansing their taint from their land of radiant glory to the world. The pulse of magic slowed, fading the heartbeat of a dying man, but after 1,000 years it has begun to quicken again. In a small fishing village, a boy with strange powers comes of age. A long queen rises in the west, fanning the long, smoldering embers of magic into blaze once more. Something of great importance is stolen, or freed, from the mysterious empire of swords and flowers, and the immortals who survived the ancient cataclysms bestir themselves, casting about for why the world is suddenly changing. I'm also intrigued because the Umbral Storm was a non-Western setting, so I'm hoping this will also kind of pull into some of that inspiration, and I'm excited for it. I'm just really, really excited for this one. I can't really say much more besides that I'm super intrigued by it. I really liked the concepts in the Umbral Storm, so that I hope that Alec Hudson becomes one of my new favorite indie authors. And in the number 1 spot of the series I am so excited to read next year, well to start, is Army of the Cursed by Karim Solomon. Now, I actually struggled whether I should put this on this list because technically this is the second series in the world, but I went back and I looked at the first series and I knew I was way more excited in this one, and you can read them separately. There's no absolute need to read them in order, is what I've been told or researched. So I think I'll read this one. If I enjoy it, I'll go back and read the other one. The other one's a lot longer too, and this is newer. So I'm just really excited for this. I read this in my predicting star ratings of indie books off of their first chapter, and I gave this a 5-star prediction. It's Middle Eastern vibes, think something like the David Bad trilogy, and I love that type of magic with the lore of the Jinn. I love all of that, and I'm just really excited to dive deep into this. I loved the desert setting that happened in this first chapter. I was really, really engaged and really intrigued as I read it, so I'm just super excited. I'm really excited about this one. I need to read this next year. Everybody knew the cursed were coming, nobody knew how to defeat them. The Gorians thought that they were ready to face demons in battle, but when the foretold war of Last Day begins, one fact becomes clear. The doom of mankind is just a matter of time. Now, its face rests in the hand of a hapless trio. A mage's apprentice who relies on her wits rather than magic, a princess who seeks the ultimate weapon against demons, but first she has to survive the turmoil of civil war, and a warrior whose swordplay could prove more useful against a threat graver than the bandits infesting his village. Can the three unite and put aside their differences before it is too late? The entire human race is already on the brink of extinction. This has so much buzzwords for me. A desert setting, non-Western setting, 3 POVs. It was also in SPFBO last year, I believe, and it did really well. I think it was one of the finalists last year. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I'm pretty sure. And I don't know, I'm just really, really excited for this one. A lot. I really can't wait to read this one. Anyway, that was the last one. So there are the 10 plus 2 honorable mentions indie fantasy books that I want to read next year. Let me know down below if you have any indie books that you're interested in, if you're interested in any of these, if you found a new book to read, you know, all that good stuff that just comes around with watching my videos. Just talk to me in the comments. I love chatting with everyone. And then if you are not feeling chatty, you can leave me a... Let's keep it simple. Let's just do a book emoji today. We're readers. Let's leave some books down below. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely incredible day.